I want to talk today about accountability and how often accountability can feel like an attack. And we've all been there, right? It's difficult. I don't think any of us like being held accountable too much, right? And I think that's the problem, is our too much is very subjective. I've been as part of work reviews. I was thinking specifically as I was putting together the idea for this episode. I was talking to someone. I was part of a evaluation at work, and there was a person who consistently showed up late to work, and their entire review was good, right? Like all of the goods. Like I think it was 1 out of 5. They got a lot of 5s, a lot of 4s, and then, and I hope you can hear that deep breath that I took. And then there was like, hey, there is this one thing we need you to work on. You're late consistently. We need that to be better. And the person just lost their mind. And I wasn't the one giving the review. It was when I worked at an institution. But I was there as the witness. Part of the way they did their reviews was the HR person did it, but then there had to be like the person's manager. And this was a place where being late really had consequences for your fellow employees. And the person just lost their mind. They were just completely upset. Like, how could you say that? Blah, 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 blah. And they just fought back against the idea they had to be on time. And they actually ended up leaving the job about a month later because, and they cited this, like it just still blows my mind, and it's been years since I've worked there. They cited the attack of why there wasn't understanding for them being late. And at some point, I think we're going to do something about how, empathy doesn't necessarily mean agreement. Last week, I talked about how validating emotions doesn't mean acceptance. And this is part of that. Maybe this is an unintentional series that I've got going here that we really need to consider when we look at our emotions and how they work. Because when we start to get into this, we need to kind of pull out, like, what does it look like? Why does accountability sometimes feel like an attack? And it can feel like that. I think, first of all, one of the really important reasons for us to consider is a lot of us, our identity is still being formed even as adults. And if you remember, if you've been around for a while, you know that one of the things that I believe is that we need 3 things in our lives. We need identity, we need affection, and we need affirmation. And the identity piece, a lot of us are still trying to figure that out. Like maybe you grew up and like me, you grew up and your identity was through things that you could do in a certain arena. And then that gets changed. Or maybe your identity was just constantly attacked by people who should have been helping you build it. Maybe your parents were highly critical. They were constantly attacking your choices. Whatever that was, when you get to the place where your sense of worth, which comes out of our identity, if you've been around for a while, you know that I believe our sense of self-worth comes from our identity, our ability to give and receive love, and then how do we engage in meaningful things. If your sense of self-worth is tied to being good, or it's tied to being right, or needed, any correction, which is what accountability often is, any correction can feel like you were attacked because it threatens who you think you are. It threatens what you believe about yourself. And, maybe this isn't you. Maybe it's somebody you work with. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's a sibling. But when you start to dive into like, hey, have you considered this? Or, hey, you know what? You're doing these things well, but I need you to improve here. They respond in a way that doesn't make sense to you because you're caught up wondering, or they're caught up wondering, like, are you attacking me? And you're sitting there thinking, no, I'm not attacking you. I just need you to do this one thing better. But to them, it feels like an attack because you're threatening their own sense of identity. Or maybe it's you. Maybe when you are held accountable, maybe when somebody says to you, your spouse, your wife says to you, hey, I think you're doing good, but I need you to do this better. It translates into your head, see, I can't do anything right. This could be, I'm not saying it is definitively for you. We're going to go through quite a few reasons today. But this could be because you feel like your identity is being attacked. And this can happen even when, like, if something that you're a part of is being critiqued. I tend to hammer the mantra on youth sports when it's youth sports, or even high school sports or adult sports or whatever, your things that you volunteer for, whatever it is, if those are critiqued or held accountable, that can feel like an attack. If it's something you're doing and it's questioned, that can feel like an attack, especially if it's tied to your identity. So the next time that you feel attacked because someone is trying to hold you accountable to something, maybe a better response would be to run out Is this because whatever this is part of my identity?